Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about the ongoing war between Afghanistan and Pakistan and the lack of condemnation from the wider world. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The war between Afghanistan and Pakistan seems to be progressing well on its way up the escalation ladder.
I came here to check the lists. I don't know whether his name is on the list or not. I don't know if he is alive or dead. So far he is missing. I have no information at all.
Now, days before America and Israel attacked Iran, another war, which has received far less attention, erupted between Tehran's neighbours Pakistan and Afghanistan. In an airstrike on Monday, the Taliban says more than 400 people were killed at a drug rehabilitation centre in Kabul. Pakistan denies targeting the hospital, but the Norwegian Refugee Council, an independent aid group, says its staff saw hundreds of dead civilians at the site of the attack. Well, today I got some reaction to the escalating conflict from the former president of Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai. Have a listen.
The bombardment of our capital yesterday by the Pakistani forces was an extremely unfortunate event in relation between the two countries. Without a doubt, hundreds of people were killed and wounded. I heard the sound, the horrific sound of the bomb itself. It shook our house terribly, badly. And then after about half an hour or so, the whole environment was full of smoke and dust from that bombing. We condemn it in the strongest possible terms for a neighbor to come and bomb another neighbor and civilians and kill them like that. The history of relations between the two countries is such that the government of Pakistan has not been able to live with any Afghan government. They didn't do this well with the governments in the monarchist regime in Afghanistan, and then the Republic, and then subsequently other governments, and then the Republic again. During my time in office, I went there 20 times to seek a better relationship. They didn't respond. And now with the current administration, they're doing the same. So the unfortunate fact is that the government of Pakistan does not wish to have a sensible, reasonable, civilized relationship with Afghanistan. They rely on creating anarchy and weakness and a downtrodden Afghanistan this year's in their interest, which is terribly wrong, which I hope they will change their minds.
And the striking silence or the deafening silence regarding any condemnation from the international community at large is absolutely astounding. I've come across a post from the real Wahida AFG where this person indicates, well, two things. The first thing she says is that once again, only India strongly condemns Pakistan's airstrikes on the Omid Addiction Treatment Hospital in Kabul on March 15th, a cowardly act that killed civilians at a non-military site. Pakistan is now trying to disguise a massacre as a military operation. And the statement of condemnation by the Indian government issued, I think, March 17th, is attached. But she also has an ex-post that is pinned, which says the Pakistani regime has opened a front in Afghanistan for war, yet it does not want to send its forces to help Saudi Arabia. They are showing the Saudis that they are supposedly tied up in Afghanistan, but in reality, they have betrayed the Saudis, just as they did with the USA and China before. Now, if you're familiar with my channel and you've subscribed and you've watched some of my other videos, notably the last one I did about the Afghanistan-Pakistan conflict, you would be aware of the post, the ex post that I attached to my video from a journalist, Moeed Pirzada, where he talks about a letter issued by the Pakistani administration, that is Asim Munir and Shehbaz Sharif, to the then Biden administration in the United States.
ट्विटर के ऊपर पड़ी हुई है और ये लीक डॉक्यूमेंट पाकिस्तान के एक फारा रजिस्टर्ड लॉबिस्ट के लीक डॉक्यूमेंट हैं। फारा कहते हैं फॉरेन एजेंट रजिस्ट्रेशन एक्ट, जिसके तहत पाकिस्तान ने इस वक्त 5 के 6 अपने लॉबिस्ट जो है रजिस्टर किए हुए। ये जो कम्युनिकेशन लीक हो गई है, पता नहीं कैसे लीक हो गई है। एम्बेसडर पॉल जोन्स जो पाकिस्तान में रह चुके हैं, जिन दिनों में मैं पाकिस्तान में था, मेरी भी उनसे बहुत मुलाकात हुई, फॉर्मर यूएस एम्बेसडर, उन्होंने एक ईमेल लिखी है एलिजाबेथ होस्ट को, जो बाइडेन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में साउथ एशिया के मामलों को सुपरवाइज करती थी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ स्टेट में, और उन्होंने कहा है कि आप जानते हैं कि बेसिकली पॉल जोन्स काम कर रहे हैं स्क्वायर पैटर्न बॉक्स के लिए, जो कि लॉबिस्ट फर्म है, और उन्होंने कहा कि हमने एक डॉक्यूमेंट अटैच किया है आपका एग्जामिन करने के लिए, और डॉक्यूमेंट का उन्वान है रिन्यूड पाकिस्तान यूएस रिलेशंस। उन्होंने कहा कि हमने ये प्रपोजल दिया है, गवर्नमेंट को हम देना चाह रहे हैं, आप इसको एक दफा देख लें कि इसमें हमें मजीद कुछ इसकी नोक पलक दुरुस्त करने की जरूरत है, हमें कुछ इसमें एडिशन करने की जरूरत है। अभी डॉक्यूमेंट बड़ा एम्बिशियस है। ये डॉक्यूमेंट ये कहता है कि पाकिस्तान दुनिया के वन ऑफ द मोस्ट पॉपुलस नेशन स्टेट्स में से ऑफ कोर्स है। पाकिस्तान इज द 5th लार्जेस्ट पॉपुलस नेशन, 2nd लार्जेस्ट मुस्लिम कंट्री इन टर्म्स ऑफ पॉपुलेशन, और पाकिस्तान का अमेरिकन डायस्पोरा जो है वो तकरीबन 6 लाख का अमेरिकन डायस्पोरा है, जो बहुत ही रोबस्ट है। हम बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट हैं, हम अपना ट्रेड और इन्वेस्टमेंट रिलेशनशिप चाहते हैं, और हम अपने फाइनेंशियल आर्किटेक्चर को मॉडर्नाइज कर रहे हैं। यहाँ तक तो खैर बड़ा उसमें भी बहुत ज्यादा एग्जैजरेशन है और सब इम्प्रैक्टिकल बातें हैं जिसमें कोई सब्सटेंस नहीं है, लेकिन जो असल चीज है चुभती भी, वो ये है कि उसमें सिक्योरिटी का जो पैराग्राफ है उसमें लिखा है कि आईसिस के पास वो वेपन्स हैं जो अमेरिका पीछे छोड़ गया था, और ये वेपन्स हमारे भी खिलाफ इस्तेमाल हो रहे हैं, टीटीपी को मिल रहे हैं, और पाकिस्तान असिस्ट कर सकता है अमेरिका को इन वेपन्स को रिट्रीव करने में। ये बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है। आप अफगानिस्तान से किस तरह से वेपन रिट्रीव करेंगे, इसका मतलब है कि आप अफगानिस्तान के अंदर दाखिल होंगे, अफगानिस्तान में वेपन्स को ढूंढेंगे, आप अफगानिस्तान के साथ जंग करेंगे। तो बेसिकली पाकिस्तान, ये प्रपोजल किया जा रहा है पाकिस्तान की फौज की तरफ से कि हम अफगानिस्तान से, अगर हमारी मदद की जाए, आप हमें सपोर्ट करें, तो हम अफगानिस्तान से जंग करने के लिए तैयार हैं। इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब यह है कि पाकिस्तान जो है इस्टेब्लिशमेंट को वो ढूंढ रही है उसी किस्म का लेवरेज एंड रिलेशनशिप जैसा कि 1960 की दिहाई में सीटो सेंटो की शक्ल में था। 1979 का जो सोवियत इन्वेजन है, उसके बाद 10 बरस का एक रिलेशनशिप था जनरल जिया का अफगान जहाद के हवाले से, और 9/11 के बाद जनरल मुशर्रफ का भी 8-9 बरस का एक रिलेशनशिप था। ये एक ऐसा रिलेशनशिप होता है जिसमें आपकी अहमियत और लेवरेज बहुत बढ़ जाता है, आपके साथ मिलिट्री और इंटेलिजेंस कोऑपरेशन होती है, आपको फाइनेंशियल मदद भी मिलती है, आप बड़े अहम जो है वो हो जाते हैं। सो जनरल आसिम मुनीर मसलसल उनकी टीम कोशिश कर रही है कि इसी किस्म का एक रिलेशनशिप उनको एक बार फिर मिल जाए, कम से कम अगले 10 साल जो है वो आसानी से गुजर जाए। इस स्टेज पे मैं ये भी कहूंगा कि पाकिस्तान के 99.99% लोग, जिनमें मैं भी शामिल था बहुत अरसे तक, वो सबका ये ख्याल है कि पाकिस्तान न्यूक्लियर जोहरी ताकत बन गया। अमेरिका की रेजिस्टेंस के बावजूद हमने बड़ी बहादुरी दिखाई, हम बड़े स्मार्ट थे, हमने ये वाला दौबेज किया।
The letter by that was released by Moeed Pirzada, where the Pakistanis effectively told the Americans that they are willing to open a front against Afghanistan because both the Pakistanis and the Americans have issues with the current regime in Afghanistan. But needless to say, this is all a smoke and mirrors operation, because the Pakistanis are terrified of honoring the mutual defense pact that they signed with Saudi Arabia, as Saudi Arabia has requested them their assistance in standing up to the Iranian aggression that the Saudis are facing, the onslaught that the Saudis are facing. And we know that the Saudis are woefully incapable of managing this threat on their own. However, I suspect that, my personal opinion, even together with the Pakistanis, they're not going to be able to manage this Iranian onslaught, because they are in no way capable of controlling what the Iranians are going to unleash. We know that the Pakistanis have deliberately opened this front against the Afghanis just so that they could avoid having to send their forces into Iran, because we know it's going to be a bloodbath. The Pakistanis, together with the Saudis, are woefully inequipped to handle what the Iranians are going to throw at them. Now, this, I've also come across condemnation from the United Nations. So, I'll show you the duplicitous nature of the United Nations, because they're another case in point. In the Afghanistan International, and I will attach a clip of it where it says the UN disputes Taliban claim of 400 dead in Kabul airstrike. The United Nations has rejected the Taliban claim that 400 people were killed in a Pakistani airstrike on a drug rehabilitation center in Kabul, saying instead that dozens were killed or wounded. The United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, UNAMA, has not yet released precise casualty figures. In a statement issued Tuesday, the UN mission made no reference to the rehabilitation center being directly targeted in Pakistani strikes. UNAMA said the drug treatment facility in Kabul was affected by the airstrike.
In an airstrike on Monday, the Taliban says more than 400 people were killed at a drug rehabilitation centre in Kabul. Pakistan denies targeting the hospital, but the Norwegian Refugee Council, an independent aid group, says its staff saw hundreds of dead civilians at the site of the attack.
We're quite familiar with this duplicitous game that the UN plays. You've seen UNRWA, or whatever it's called, that was in actively playing a part supporting Hamas in Gaza during the Israeli campaign after October 7th. So the United Nations are no stranger to controversy. When you deny that 400 are killed, okay, let's say the numbers are exaggerated. You make it seem, this clip makes it seem as if the dozens that have been killed are immaterial. It's because the 400 is what matters. Both parties to a conflict are going to inflate numbers, going to exaggerate information. Yes, it is your job to weed through and try and get to the bottom of the truth. However, playing down that only a dozen possibly could have been killed, even one life is important. And this is what my entire video is based on. The fact that whether it's one life or whether it's 5,000 lives, the point is that lives are being lost. Now, when Gaza erupted, and don't forget, Gaza erupted after the Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. The world stood united in condemnation. Yet, when millions of Afghans were being repatriated from Iran and from Pakistan, some of whom were born and brought up in Pakistan, so they were Pakistani citizens, when they were being sent back to Afghanistan, there was silence around the world. The same thing with the Houthis in Yemen. When the Yemeni kids were being battered day in and day out, when they were being mercilessly massacred by the Saudis with weapons that the British, that we sent over to assist in this battle, there was a deafening silence resounding around the globe. When Syria was being hammered and battered by anti-Bashar forces, look at what has come into Syria now. When slave trades are being opened in Libya, look at what Libya has descended into. Look at what happened in Iraq. Our inability to condemn atrocities across the board. We should hang our head in shame and not attach the word humanity to our species, because the fact that we can pick and choose a life, even in the Muslim world, it is incredibly duplicitous. In the Muslim world, Gaza is front and center, but you hear nothing about what was happening to the Houthis. In the Muslim world, Gaza is front and center, yet the Afghan plight has gone unnoticed. Why is it that we pick and choose who we wish to support? Why is it? And then when the Muslim world is rallied in the Gaza cause, suddenly the entire world has to follow that path. Now, those of us who sit back and say, hang on, why has what has been happening in Syria not been condemned? Why has what is happening in Afghanistan not been condemned? Then you shut down, then you marginalize, then you ostracized. But it's a logical conclusion. So the point I'm making here is that it's it's convenient to jump on certain bandwagons, but other bandwagons we want to ignore totally. Nobody wants to talk about what is going on in Afghanistan. So I've attached some of these articles to this video, and I urge you to go in, have a look at it. But also, I think it's time that if we're prepared to condemn one injustice being perpetrated in some part of the world, then I think we should be able to condemn injustices all around the world. I don't think we should be in a position to pick and choose what we see as important and what is less important and whose lives are more important than others, because I think, for me, I think every life is important. Color, religion is immaterial. Every life is important. So I want to thank you for spending time with us. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps our channel to grow.